Assalamu alaikum, sweet people. Today is my most requested video recipe for chocolate cake. This chocolate cake is super moist, fudgy, and incredibly delicious. In this video, I will tell you step by step on how to make this fudgy cake and what ingredients you have to use. In a big bowl, we are going to sieve all the dry ingredients, starting off with 175 grams of self-raising flour, 10 grams of corn flour, half teaspoon baking powder, and quarter teaspoon of salt. Next, 60 grams of cocoa powder and 15 grams of black cocoa powder. I used Dutch processed cocoa powder, which is unsweetened. Black cocoa powder is not necessary. You can also switch to normal cocoa powder. It just gives a rich chocolate flavor. Now we're going to sieve all the dry ingredients. Mix them together with a whisk thoroughly so they are nicely combined like so. Now we're going to prepare our yogurt mixture. So we have 95 grams of yogurt, plain yogurt, with 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Mix well and set aside. Now in a separate big bowl, we're going to mix our wet ingredients. That's 2 large eggs plus 1 egg yolk, 150 grams of caster sugar, 155 grams of dark brown sugar, 80 grams of vegetable oil or any flavorless oil, the yogurt mix we made earlier. Now, the special ingredient is mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is made out of eggs and oil, so that's a rich ingredient for our chocolate cake, and we need 60 grams of it to make the cake extra moist and fudgy. Now mix all the ingredients very good until combined with the help of a whisk. Be sure that the ingredients are nicely mixed so we don't have any lumps of brown sugar or anything else. Once our wet ingredients are nicely mixed, we're going to add the dry ingredients we mixed earlier. So put all your dry ingredients in the wet mix and mix very slowly and thoroughly so everything is nicely combined and there's no dry mix left. While mixing this up, I would be very grateful if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. At this point, you can feel it's difficult to mix. You can use a hand mixer, but I prefer a whisk because it doesn't overmix like that. If you overmix any cake batter, you can have air pockets in the cake too much, and that makes a cake very bumpy. So that's why I use a whisk. It mostly applies to most of my chocolate cakes to use a whisk. Another important ingredient is hot coffee. This is boiling water with 1 teaspoon of instant coffee powder. Now you have to mix this really slowly and carefully because now we have the hot water that is indulging in the batter. The hot coffee will make the cake really moist. If you don't want to add coffee, just can add hot water. As we are mixing in the hot coffee, it's making a lovely pool of chocolate. Who wants to swim in that batter? Comment down below. Now we are going to grease our pans. This recipe is for 3 6-inch layers of chocolate. So we are going to grease really well. It's important to grease here well because it's a liquid batter and we have to make sure that the cake doesn't stick to the pan or the cake tins. Lining the tins with baking paper that I have cut it into rounds. Going over again with some vegetable oil to remove the air bubbles from the baking paper. Once the cake pans are lined, we're going to pour in the batter evenly. For me, I filled in the pan halfway through. And we made a mess. That's complete normal with chocolate cakes. We're going to bake them at 175 degrees. For 22 to 25 minutes, our cakes have been baked and I have set them out to cool down at room temperature. Now it's time to make the silkiest, delicate chocolate buttercream. We'll need 40 grams of cocoa powder and 140 grams of dark chocolate. We're going to melt these two together with 90 ml of hot water, mixing it well so the chocolate melts. Now, if you feel that the chocolate is not melted enough, put it in the microwave for like 30 seconds to 1 minute. So I've put it in the microwave and now it's completely melted. And now I'm going to mix it really well so everything is nicely combined. In a separate mixing bowl, I've added 225 grams of unsalted butter, which is at room temperature. In the cold days is sometimes difficult, but don't worry, it will get along. Whip it up until fluffy and the air has been incorporated. Next step is to sieve over 85 grams of icing sugar. Sieving is very important to get rid of lumps of icing sugar. To push the lumps through the sieve, you can use the back of a spoon. Mix it slowly at first and speed it up. Whip it up until all the icing sugar have disappeared and it's a fluffy buttercream. Make the buttercream nice, silky, and smooth. We're going to add in 2 to 3 tablespoons of condensed milk. This will also give a nice shine to our buttercream. Correcting myself here, to our chocolate buttercream. Mixing it again until incorporated. Now time to add the chocolate mix that has been cooled down. Mix well with the help of a hand mixer. For the buttercream, it's important to use a hand mixer because we need to create air. Once you feel everything is nicely mixed, it's time to scrape the sides of the bowls so we don't miss any butter or lumps of butter as much as possible. Now give it a last blast to create the silkiest, yummiest chocolate buttercream. You can see how smooth, silky it is, and it also has a nice shine. That was because of our condensed milk. So now it's time to trim off the tops of our chocolate cakes. Using a cake leveler, I trimmed the tops off. You can also use a serrated knife or a bread knife. Be sure you don't do it wonky but evenly throughout the whole cake. With the cake leveler, it's easier because it makes sure that the cake is level and not trimmed wonky. It's time to decorate our cake finally. So I've got a big fancy board or a plate or a dish, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to smear on some chocolate buttercream with the help of a cranked palette knife or offset palette knife. Putting the first layer of cake. Here I would choose a cake layer that is a bit wonky or a bit cracked up, just because it's the bottom layer. Adding dollops of that silkiest, yummiest chocolate buttercream. Spreading it out with the palette knife, evening it out, smoothing it out as much as possible. Not satisfied here, adding more chocolate buttercream. So we make sure we have enough buttercream throughout the layers, repeating the process with the other two layers. Time to add the third and final layer, upside down. So we have the flat side on the top of the cake. Cleaning the edges of the cake with the cranked paddle knife with the buttercream that is coming out of the layers. For this cake, there is no crumb coat, as you mostly see on my videos, cake decorating videos. This is going to be a roughly decorated cake. I like it in the chocolate cakes. It's nice and it feels that is a chocolate cake. Applying a thick amount of that yummy, silkiest chocolate buttercream. So don't worry if you want to do it tidy or neatly. Just go with what your heart says. You fridge the cake in the fridge for like half an hour and it's ready to serve. It's so delicious, delicate, yummy, chocolatey, fudgy, and moist. It's a very yummy cake for any birthday cake, events, and someone coming home for visit. You have to try this recipe out. Look how fudgy and moist this cake looks from the inside. Yum. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Be sure to subscribe and comment down below if you like the recipe and what video you would like to see next. If you haven't seen my cake decorating videos, be sure to check them out. I give handy tips. See you next time, inshallah.